What's up everybody, it's Preston and I am super excited for this video. Today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make your first beat on FL Studio. I want to preface this video by saying this is for complete beginners. If you've never used FL Studio before, this is the video for you. When I first started making beats, I really struggled finding those videos that broke it down for complete beginners. I tried watching some of the Internet Money videos and really Internet Money just went way too fast, and so I wanted to break this down for you guys really easy. So this is for really the people that have never used FL Studio before, who see this screen right here and say, what is going on? I know it looks really confusing, but we're going to break it down for you guys. Let's get into it. So the first thing that we're going to do is click File, click New from Template, go over to Minimal, and click Empty. That way we're just starting off completely empty with nothing in the project. There are a bunch of different versions of FL Studio, and right now I'm actually using the trial version. I don't have the full version of FL Studio, but that is alright, you guys. So FL Studio comes in a lot of different versions, and the trial version or the demo version, you can use it for as long as you want, except it's kind of limited. You know, you got your demos for your plugins, and then the main drawback is you can save your project, but you can't open it. So you're just going to have to export the file as an MP3 or WAV file when you're finished. If that doesn't make sense to you, don't worry about it. We're just going to get right into this. So basically, this bar up here is going to be your best friend. So this right here is the View the Playlist button. The playlist is basically this whole thing right here. This is where you're going to put in your patterns and your samples, and that's really going to be the meat of your beats. That's really going to be the main part of your beat right here. And this right here is the piano roll. Now, this is kind of confusing at first because I used to think you could go into the piano roll, do whatever you want with it, and then it would come out sounding with whatever you want. But really, what you have to do is go to this thing called the channel rack, and you have to use a plugin or a different sound or a sample or something, and you have to put that in, and then it will change the pitch for the piano roll. I know this looks really confusing, but we're not going to worry about any of that right now. This is the mixer channel. All of your sounds will go to one of these mixers. You have to assign them to a mixer, otherwise they'll just go to the master channel. And these basically control the volume, they control which side of your ear you hear it on, and you can also add effects to everything, which we are going to be doing later. I just want to start this video. I also want to say in this video we're not going to be doing much mixing or any mastering, so I will be doing tutorials in the future, and you can actually get really good tutorials after you watch this video. Everything is going to make a whole lot more sense. And this, the plugin picker, those two really you're not going to be using as much. In fact, I don't think I've ever used either of those. This is really, these three are just have to do with organizing and managing your plugins. This right here is the tempo tapper. Say I want it to be really fast. I'm going to tap really fast. You'll never see a beat at 293 BPM most likely. So usually beats are a little bit slower or a lot slower, and this actually controls how fast your beat is going as well. So right here is the touch controller. I've never used this. I have a MIDI keyboard, but we're actually not going to be using it to show that you really don't need much to get started. And over here we have the metronome. We have a bunch of other things. One thing that I want you guys to do right now is make sure that this keyboard button is clicked off, and so you don't have it, because otherwise it's going to make some of these keyboard shortcuts a little bit harder to do. So I'm actually going to move my keyboard back a little bit. Make sure you guys get comfortable in your chair. This is going to be a really long video. So let's get into this. So this is the play button. This is the pause button, and the pause button in FL Studio will actually bring you back to wherever you put your marker. And since we don't have anything in the playlist, it's not going to go past this 2 right here. Anyways, that will go back to wherever you first started. So say you want to play, it'll go back to where you first started. So that's really useful. And then the pattern and the song section will get you going back onto the playlist, and whatever is on the playlist you will be hearing. And pattern really has to do with this channel rack right here. Whatever you have in here is going to be playing, and this is really useful if you just want to hear the piano roll. So that is basically that. So what we're going to do, you guys obviously want to make a beat. I have all of these over here, Most of these just came with FL Studio, but I do have a bunch of kits. And so what we're going to be using for this is my tutorial kit. You can download it, link in the description, and you are going to be making a really cool trap beat. And I'm sure that's what you guys want. If you clicked on this video, you want to get into hip hop, trap, rap, melodic rap, really anything with that. FL Studio is the way to go. So what we're going to be doing is clicking this plus pattern button, and we're going to first off be putting in the drums, and then actually we're going to do a melody as well. And right here you're going to see the melody, and what we're going to be doing is making a really simple melody for you guys. We are going to be clicking on the channel rack right here, and then we're going to be right clicking on this, going down to replace. Make sure you click on that or just hover over it, and we're going to be going to FL keys. Now there are two ways that you can get to a really cool keyboard. If you have FL Studio, you can click packs down here, you can click instruments, and then go to keyboard and drag one of these over to here. We're not going to be doing that though. We are going to be using FL keys. FL keys is not the highest quality, but that is alright. That is the purpose of this video. So you're probably thinking, whoa, I don't play piano. This is going to be really tough, but I'm going to break down the piano roll for you guys. Basically, the main thing that I would use is this little horseshoe up here. You are going to go down to half beat. We're going to be using this, and make sure you don't do half step, do half beat. And we're basically just going to be using this. So this slider up here makes you go back and forth. You can use your mouse wheel to go up and down. But one thing that I really want you guys to know, if you want to zoom in, you're just going to hold down Control, or I think Command if you're on Mac, I'm not sure. And you'll be able to use your mouse wheel and just zoom in and out. This is going to be super useful. So you can also come up to this little black bar up here and use your mouse wheel. It's almost the same as clicking Control. And basically this piano roll seems really complicated. You know, you see this down here, the velocity. It seems really complicated, but we're just going to be doing a very basic melody. So what we're going to start off first is some chords. So we're just going to click right here. And I want to start off with a cool C minor chord. So we're going to start with the C, and if you guys need help finding chords, finding scales, chord progressions, anything, just go to Google, whatever search engine you use, and look up some cool chord progressions, and then it will actually tell you the notes for each chord. So what we're going to be doing is filling it in right like this. So this is a C chord, if it's C, E, and G, and we're actually going to hold down Control, select everything, bring it down to C5. It might already be on C5. That is not where I placed it though. So we're just moving those all down. So this would be a C chord. So I'm going to hit my space bar. Oh, you got to hit your pattern. I had it on the song. You know, you mess up, you make mistakes. That's all right. That's all part of learning. So you're going to click on pattern, or just click any of these until it gets to pattern. And then you're just going to be clicking the space bar, and we got our chord ready. So I actually forgot about the BPM, so we're actually going to be bringing this down to 140 BPM. This is the most standard beats per minute for most trap beats actually. It's kind of something that you don't really think about, but it's very important because the speed can really affect the sound of your song or beat. So I know this is a lot of information so far, but basically what we're going to be doing is making this into C minor. So this is C. If we bring the E down a half step, going from one note to the next is a half step, and that sounds very minor. So what we're going to be doing is, we got that first chord, and now we are going to be doing this. You're going to hold down Control to select. Make sure that you've been using pencil for this as well, up here, pencil. Alright, so we've selected that. We're going to hold down Shift, and we're going to click, don't let go, and just drag. And we're going to bring it to the right on that line where it says 3. That is the third measure. So we have, basically, I'm just going to repeat the same two chords. So we're going to zoom out again, Control, use the mouse wheel. And then I am going to try and find a chord that sounds cool. So I'm kind of thinking we should do an A, and I'm gonna listen to this real quick. Yeah, so an A doesn't sound very good. That's all right. It's all about trial and error. That sounds super sweet. All right, guys, so we have found our chord, and this is using more than 3. It's really going to give that the full sound that this last chord is going to have. The chord progression kind of builds up, starts normal, goes down, goes back to normal, and right when you think it's going to go down, it gets really big. So we start on a G4, and then we have another note on the D5, and then another note above that on the G5, and then another note above that on B5. So this is our whole chord progression. It sounds really cool. Definitely has that cool kind of like minor vibe. And by major and minor, I'm not talking about age. When I say major and minor, major means happy and minor kind of means sad or darker. And this definitely has that darker vibe. So now that we have our chords, we're going to be adding our melody. So as I said before, this note right here, or this chord right here, I mean, is a C chord. So we're going to start with our notes on the C chord. And a lot of making melodies is really just trial and error. So we're going to find something cool that sounds really great. So what I'm liking is have the chord hit, and then we wait halfway through the measure, and then we hit it with the chord kind of note. And I know it may not always be the lowest note, because a lot of the times the low notes are the accent notes, but most of the time your lowest notes, if it's just a basic chord, is going to be the root note of your chord. So basically, here's what we have so far. Really, I'm just kind of putting in random notes. So basically we have this chord, the root note, and then we have this chord, we got the melody, starting halfway through the measure, just like this one. Same with this. And this one, though, I added a note after. And it already sounds super cool. So if you guys want to follow along with me, for this first measure, if you guys want to follow along with me for this first measure, we have C5, D sharp 5, G5, and then C6 halfway through the measure. And we can actually bring all of these out if we want, but one easier way to do this, say that this was back here again, control and then drag it, and then we can trim all of these, and it makes it super quick. Now this one we don't need to, since it's kind of already, but actually it kind of adds to the chord. I think that sounds really cool, but we don't need to move this one anymore. And now we're going to control and then use our mouse wheel and zoom out. This is our first melody. This is kind of the chords and the melody. Now what we're going to be doing is adding it into here. We're basically dragging this over here, and if you don't have it, don't worry, just click on this little piano. It'll have all your patterns, and then you're going to click on the melody that you just did, and you're going to drag it over. Super easy, just like that. And then we're going to click song. And look at that. It's already there. It's in the playlist. Super cool. So now what we're going to do is control, and then select it. So control, and then of course drag to select it. And then we're going to do control or command B. And that basically just duplicates it directly after. So if, let's say, this, we trimmed off the last chord and we selected this and control B, it would just do that. Like it wouldn't put it on the next 4 bars. But yeah, that's basically what we have so far. And so we have the melody. We are going to control, select, which again, control, you're going to click and then drag. And then we're going to control B so it fills up 4 measures. What I'm kind of thinking for this song is it's going to be very short, of course, your first beat. We have this first melody right here. Then we're going to start with the drums in here. And then we're going to have that bass drop right here. And then as well as right here. It's going to be a very short beat, definitely not a full beat at all. But once you learn these basics, you'll be able to look up most like type beat like tutorials. You can actually watch my Iann Dior tutorial and replace the guitar with piano or whatever if you have your own guitar plugin. I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyways, we're going to click on this drums pattern, and then we're going to click channel rack. And let me just readjust my headphones 1 second. And then we're going to see the channel rack, and it looks really confusing. So we're not going to touch this FL keys part. We're going to click all, and we're going to click unsorted, and there's nothing there. And so what we're going to be doing is using the kit that I have. Link is in the description for you to download it really easily. But in order to get the kit into FL Studio, if it's not already there, you're going to go up here to options, go to file settings, and then you're going to click on this little button, and then you're going to find wherever the folder is. It could be in your downloads. It really just depends where you have it. But I recommend making a folder somewhere that has to do with your beats, calling it kits. So you have all your drum kits over here. That way, if you ever get any more, you'll have it ready to go. Anyways, I already have that there. So you would click OK. I'm just clicking cancel. Now, I have a lot of different kits and a lot of kits within these folders. So we're going to click the tutorial kit, and then we're going to start off with the clap. Alright, you guys, so now that we have this going, we're not going to touch FL keys up there. In fact, this is probably going to say a 1 for you, and then this clap isn't going to have anything. Don't worry about that. What we're going to be doing is adding the drums into our playlist. That way we can listen to everything along with the melody. Make sure that's selected as song. And once we start adding in drums, we'll be able to listen back with the melody and the clap, and everything's going to turn out great. So for clap, it's kind of hard to explain, but most of the time when you're around this, I guess, 100 to 200 range for your BPM, so we're pretty much in the middle for that, we are going to do it every other blue. So it really depends on how you have your FL Studio set up. Basically, if you first get FL Studio, I haven't changed it yet, so it's going to be kind of that bluish gray and then that brown red. And we're going to be doing it on the second blue. I'm just going to be calling it blue. I know it's kind of grayish. And you're going to see these over here, and it's going to look like you can't click, but you can. So we're going to be doing it pretty much every one. So we have that first one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then right on that 9. So this one. And then we basically do the same thing again, just over here. It would start right here. This little section we have right here would basically restart the count over right here. Then you put it on number 9. And then basically we're just going to keep doing that until you can see on the drums that every part of this is filled up. So this should actually be the perfect amount. So now that we have the clap, we can listen with the clap. And I know I said we're going to have the drums come in later. Don't worry about that right now. So what we're going to be doing next is adding the hi-hat. And we're going to drag the hi-hat in right underneath. Make sure you do not drag it onto the clap. Otherwise it will replace your clap with your hi-hat. I apologize. I cannot talk today. Now what we're going to be doing is right-clicking on the hi-hat, and we're going to click fill each 2 steps. And that's going to give you a really cool hi-hat sound. It's going to start to sound more like a trap beat. And what we can do if we want to is use the left and right click on the channel rack. Left would be to place, and then right click, you can get rid of it, and it's really nice because you can just kind of drag and delete really easily. I'm going to fill that back in. But we can add any notes that we want. So I'm going to be adding in the first and third clap. I'm going to be adding in a hi-hat right before the clap hits. Sounds really cool. then right on this kind of reddish brown, we're going to have another hi-hat right after the second one. So basically, if we were to split this, this is the first measure, and so it's basically right before the measure starts over again. This is the first measure, this will be the second measure, third measure, and then fourth measure. I know it's kind of confusing, but we have our hi-hat and our clap. Let's take a listen. That sounds awesome. Now we're going to be adding our kick, and our kick goes right underneath this, and most beats are going to start the kick off right at that first note, and then I always say 3 before, but I mean, I guess if you were calling this one 1, 2, 3, 3 before the clap, but it's basically what you're going to be looking at the channel guide with is you're going to have 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s for each one of these sets of colors. And I'm sure this is confusing you right now, but basically we're going to be seeing these as the downbeat, and so we're going to be putting it on the second downbeat of the second set of colors. I know it's really confusing, but it's basically, if this were the kick right here, it's 1 in the middle and then it hits. I'm sure it's confusing, but if you just copy this, it'll be a lot easier. Then you can apply this to all of your beats. But this is a really simple drum pattern, but we're also going to be adding one of these kicks in every time the blue starts over and is not on a clap. So if that made any sense to you, I know it didn't make sense to me when I first started using the channel rack, but basically you're just trying to listen to it, and if it sounds good, keep it. If it doesn't, change it until it does sound good. And we're actually going to be adding 2 more in here to kind of give that cool sound at the end, along with the hi-hats. It's going to sound super cool. Awesome. Now we're going to be adding in a perk. Just going to drag that underneath. And this perk that we have right here is a little bit strange. As you can see, if we are to click on the perk name right here, it has this little tail at the end. And if we listen to it, it kind of comes back at us again. So what we're going to be using is this little out thing right here. And we're going to be pushing it up so that we can't see that fuzziness. Right now you can see that fuzziness up there. Now we can't. So there we go. We just fixed it. Nice job, you guys. Oh, it's still there. So alright, that sounds a lot better. So what the perk is basically doing is you have the kick, and then you have the clap, and then you have that dun dun at the end. So basically this is what it's going to sound like. And you don't need to add these in if you don't like them. But basically you have this first blue, red, second blue, second red. On the second red, you're going to have it on the third little dot right here, I guess we'll call them. And then you're going to have 1, 2, 3 in the middle, and then another one, and that one's going to be blue. I know it sounds kind of confusing, but that is what it looks like. And so that is after the first clap, and now we're going to do it after the third clap. Basically just the same thing that we just did. There we go. We got our drums so far. But what we still have to add is the 808s. So we're going to drag this 808, and 808s can be really confusing if you're using a different kit. So I'm going to clear up all of those questions that you might have. If the 808 seems a little bit off, it could be used. The reason for it is the pitch won't change, and that's really weird. We'll get to that in a second. So you just want to make sure this time thing, if you just drag it all the way down, then it's perfect. And then we're going to go over to this little thing over here. It kind of looks like, I don't know, like a little slope, like a little hill. And we're basically going to be turning everything down except for the hold is going to be going all the way up. That makes it so when we put the 808 in the piano roll, it's only going to play the note when we actually see it in the piano roll. So we're just going to click that X, and as I said, we're actually going to go back. 808s can be confusing, so we're going to go back to this little sample part. And what you want to do when you first get an 808 is you want to right click on this sample down here, click edit in audio editor, and then we're going to click this little flag right here, detect pitch regions, and right here it says C2, so that means it is a C. And then we're going to do this little wrench icon, and then it's on the C. If it said F sharp or something like that, you're going to use your right click and find the F sharp, but it doesn't say that. So this basically makes it so that C is the home note for whatever the root note of the 808 is. And so if we click it here, we know that's a C. So what we're going to be doing is taking our melody, we're just going to double click on it, Control A to select all of it, and then Control C is going to copy all of it. Now we're going to go back and make sure you've clicked on melody, or no, make sure you clicked on drums. That's why we got to make sure of this. Then you're going to go to 808, piano roll, Control V to paste it. And now this is not your 808. You are not done yet. So what we're going to be doing for this is just using the root note of the 808. So I know for this one that it is C, and I believe this one could be B, so we're just going to listen to it. And we're going to Control A, bring it up, click the up arrow, make sure, okay, so Control A, Control, and then up arrow, it's going to bring it up an octave. And then basically it makes it easier to hear what the 808s sound like. And it gets kind of hard when you're first starting off to see what is in pitch and what isn't. And so I'm just going to be doing all this for you. I'll get back to you guys once I have the 808. So this is what the 808s look like now. I just Control selected and then move these up. You can use the shift and then the arrow to just move them half step, and then do that until you get to the G, because they were originally down here, I believe. And we already have the velocity all the way up, so that sounds really, really great so far. Now what we're going to be doing, we're not going to be doing any mixing in this video. It's mostly just going to be arranging and figuring out how to control everything. So we're not going to be putting any effects on it, but we are going to be sending it to the mixer to make sure the levels sound right. So one thing that you can do to make this really easy is make sure there's no numbers in the channel rack. And then we're going to click these little boxes right here. So those are all selected. Make sure we go to the channel or the mixer. You're going to click on Insert 1 and then Control Shift L. It's going to route all of these to the correct mixer channel. And now, if we go back and listen to this, watch this. If I turn down the FL keys, it'll adjust the volume to whatever the slider is. So we can right click on it and reset it, because I didn't want to do that. But basically, we now have them all in our channel. So what we can do is add different effects to the FL keys, which I'm not going to be getting into super in-depth in this video, but I am going to be adding a couple of effects. On these FL keys, I want to get rid of the low end, so we're going to click on one of these inserts, and I'll actually redo this for you so you don't miss a thing. Click on one of these inserts and find Fruity Parametric EQ2. I'm going to do a very brief explanation of what EQing is. EQing means taking out different frequencies from your sound. So if we are to just play this, and I'm going to see this little dot right here, we're going to right click on it, so it's just soloing the FL keys. You might see it on the master. The master basically is what goes to your headphones, so we don't want to turn that off. We're going to go back to the very beginning, and as you can see, if I bring down this one, it's going to take out different frequencies. If I bring it up, it's going to give a lot of bass. Now, when we make beats like this, we're going to want to get rid of a lot of the bass in the instruments that don't need it. So we are going to be leaving a little bit of bass, but what we're going to be doing is clicking the spacebar to listen. And then right around here is going to be pretty good, and then we're going to use our mouse wheel and kind of bring it up a little bit. And we're going to bring this 2 down to kind of help support make sure that 1 stays down. And this is going to be taking out the low ends, because if we keep those low ends in there, it's going to really clash with the 808 and it's not going to sound good. And really, there are a lot of things that you can do with EQ to make it sound better. Like if I like this frequency, I can bring it up. Usually you're not going to see it brought up that high. But I do like this 4. So we're going to bring that up a little bit. But yeah, so that's what we have on the FL keys. We can add a bunch of other effects on it too. You can really just mess around. There is a really good video that I will link. It is called I'll link a really cool video by Adriel Rivera. Basically, he breaks down every single plugin in FL Studio. I'm not sure how up to date with it. I'm not sure. There's a really cool video by Adriel Rivera where he breaks down all the different plugins in FL Studio. I'm not sure if it's up to date with some of the newer plugins that came out, but it is a very useful video. But we can like add a flanger to it, kind of give it this cool effect. And I mean, that sounds cool. We can add, I mean, if we want to add auto-tune to it, change the key of it. I don't recommend adding auto-tune to your piano. I mean, it sounds kind of funny, but really there are a lot of different plugins that you can get, and VSTs are really what they're called. That's the file name for them. And let me stop this real quick. You can get them. There's free ones. There's ones you have to pay for, but really you're gonna get all of the fruity ones. So what we're gonna be doing is clicking on Fruity Reverb, and this is reverb. Essentially is basically if you're playing a piano in a giant like concert hall, or like a gym or somewhere that's really big and open, and it's kind of that echoey sound. So if we bring up the wet, it's gonna make it sound more echoey. And they also, if you click presets up here, like we can go to a cathedral. One of the bad things about reverb is it can get pretty crazy pretty fast, and a lot of the notes can clash with each other, and there are a lot of different ways that you can customize this reverb, but what I want to do is just add a little bit. And in fact, something that you can do is bring the wet all the way up, bring the separation all the way to the left, bring the size of the room all the way up, and then this basically controls how much you can hear the reverb in the mix. So if we want it to be very, very strangely reverbed, is that a word? We would keep it all the way up, otherwise just a little bit of reverb, just like that much will be good enough for us. And now the claps and the hi-hats and the kicks, we're actually going to be doing stuff to the 808s and the kicks, but for the claps and the hi-hats and the perk, we're not going to be adding any effects on. We don't really need to for this tutorial, but for the kick, what I like to add, on my kicks, I've been using the Cymatics Diablo Lite. I believe Diablo actually came out with the full version, came out a couple days ago, and I haven't bought it yet, but it seems really cool. It's really great for your kicks and your 808s and really just your drums in general. Anyways, that does not come with FL Studio, so we're not going to be using that. We're just going to be using Fruity Wave Shaper. It's under the distortion. And then we're just going to be dragging this little thing up to kind of like the middle of this this section right here. And it kind of gives it that harder kick. And then the 808, I add a lot of stuff to my 808. So first off, we can add EQ. I'm not really going to add EQ for this one. Just for this tutorial, we're going to make it really simple for you guys. Do that same wave shaper thing. And then we're also going to be going to this multi-band compressor. So that's under the dynamics section. We're going to be clicking on that, clicking on presets, and then bass boost. And if we just solo this out by right-clicking on the little yellow dot, we can see that it is kind of making the 808 kind of distorted and a lot more bassy Now it sounds really bad in the mix altogether. So we're going to already be dragging this down, and then we're going to solo it, or unsolo it. And then basically what mixing is getting the right levels for each of your instruments. Now, if you have a lot of instruments, I mean, you could just keep going forever. Or not forever, but you know, you understand what I'm talking about. Why are you going to need 124 mixer channels? I don't know. I've never used that much. Don't worry about that. But basically, we're just going to try and get good levels for each of these. So this is where kind of that musical ear comes in. And it gets really hard at first to kind of figure out how much of this do I want. And so one thing that you can do is export the song and play it on your phone, listen to it in different headphones, listen to it on a Bluetooth speaker, listen to it in your car. That's really just kind of testing it out and seeing how it sounds. That is if you're going to be a producer and actually make beats and put them on YouTube, or make beats and send them to rappers. We're not going to worry about any of that because that is way off from where you guys are right now. I started making beats, made my first beat in April of 2020, and it is January 24th right now. And I have put out 6 songs, like, in total, and I have made so many beats that will never go out because they are just that bad. Anyway, so I got a little sidetracked there. We're going to be doing a little bit more mixing, so basically I'm just going to put my headphones on and we're just going to mix away. Bring it down. So now that we kind of have the mix finished, this is an awful job of mixing, but it is pretty good for your first time making a beat. I actually didn't discover mixing until like I was a couple months into making beats. There are tons of more detailed videos on that, but this is just a basics video. So now what we're going to be doing, make sure you have your drums selected, and we're going to be going up to patterns and then split by channel. And then we're going to use the right click, hold it down. We're just going to delete all of that. And then what we're going to be doing, as I said, I want this first part to just be normal melody. And then I want the hi-hat and the clap. So all I'm doing is clicking the hi-hat, holding down shift, clicking the clap. We're just bringing it into right here. Make sure you have this horseshoe and have it at half beat. That way it doesn't get all mixed up and off beat. So now we just have those to start, but now we're going to be bringing in everything. I want all the bass to drop right here. So of course we just click and then shift and then drag. Basically that's really it. And then you're going to select it all, Control B, and then that is basically just going to duplicate it all. Dragging this riser in right here, right before the bass drop. And we're going to be clicking this little like sample button. Kind of looks like a person. No, it doesn't. We're going to be clicking channel settings, and then we're just going to be dragging this up to something where there's nothing on it yet. So insert 7 doesn't have anything on it, and we're just going to go to insert 7. Make sure you might have to re-click your mixer. It might go away, it might not. You just have to click on here and then click detached. Kind of confusing, so it's right at the perfect amount of volume, and then it really just leads into this drop. So let's listen to the whole track so far. Super easy. Guys, you just made your first beat. Like, this is crazy. This is a big step. So I'm actually going to turn up the 808 a little bit more. yeah, basically, there we go, you guys. You have just created your first beat. And I know it's a far cry from what the big industry producers are making. I will play my first beat that I ever made. Like, it's really bad. It's really basic. It was 14 seconds long. Like, that's not even a real beat. But guys, everyone's got to start somewhere, and if you want to get into producing, definitely let me know. I'll answer all your questions. I always reply to comments. So if you guys have a comment, even if you're seeing this video like 4 years in the future, I will most likely be replying to your questions. So basically what we're going to be doing is zooming in over here, or you can just control and then zoom. And we're going to be using right click. Make sure it's lined up with the end of the beat. Then we're just going to be dragging that along here. And we're right clicking to drag all that. And then we're going to click File, Export. And then we're going to export it as a WAV file. You might think MP3, but WAV is definitely so much better. It is a lot better quality. And just click WAV. Just trust me. So I actually have a place where I save all my beats. I have all basically my music stuff in here. So I go to Beats 2021 because it's 2021. And this is how I label my beats. I label it the day, and then space, and then I think we should call this beat. You got to come up with a good name for your beats. So I'm kind of thinking it's kind of got that darker kind of side to it. So I'm going to call it Dark Knight, like Batman. And basically, we're just going to save it, and then up here, song selection, cut remainder. That way it stops and it only saves the part that we have highlighted. And yeah, this is really cool so far. You're going to want to save it to 16-bit. This is what, well, I mean, it really doesn't matter what you save it to. I just saved it to 16 because that way I get in the habit of doing that, because that's what most streaming services take your songs at. And of course, your beat, you can like downgrade it. So I would just save it as a high, I would just save it as high as you can. And then the artist can do with it what they want. But yeah, basically we're just going to click start. Boom. You guys just made your first beat. Like, that's crazy. See how easy that was? I mean, it was easy for me. It might have been hard for you. If you got any questions, drop them in the comments. But now we're going to save our project. We're going to come down here, click save as, and then you're going to type in the name, the file location where you want it. I can't save my beats. I mean, I can save my beats, but I can't open them up again because I have the demo version of FL Studio. But just think about it. Go listen to my music that I've put out. This is all done on the trial version of FL Studio. Like, you don't need a super expensive setup. Like, I was making my songs on this, like, laptop that was 11 years old. You don't need an expensive setup like the pros do. But, yeah, you guys just made your first beat, so drop any questions that you have in the comments section, and I'll be getting back to all of those, every single one. And if you guys want some more like in-depth tutorials, let me know. I'm going to have a ton of great links in the description if you want to expand your FL Studio knowledge. Yeah, that's the end of today's video, so I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys later. Peace.